Okay, the purpose of today's call, welcome to Monday. Feels like Monday. Is the A's disease of building a real estate team, where we talk all things teams. It could be if you don't have a team yet, it can be if you do have a team, whatever that is. If you're just thinking about, and remember, team doesn't mean like a whole team of realtors. That can mean an admin, that can mean only one buyer's agent. It can mean anything. The good news is I just came back from workman coach training. I think that was like my 14th or 15th one. That's how many years I've been there. And, that's our specialty is teams. So we talked about it a lot while I was there. So what's on everybody's mind today? Good morning, Will.
Hey, so
Just feel like
I,
everybody has teams. So I was always curious on how they implemented their teams, how they got it started. Is it better to be on a team versus being a single agent? I always felt like I was a single agent even when I was on a team. So I just kind of wanted to hear what
Hmm,
the
I like it.
process is and how everybody else does their teams and how to get started in the event that I tried to build my own moving
Okay.
forward.
All right. That's cozies. What about you, Will? You started to say something?
yeah, no, I was thinking about, I went through this whole process before of starting a team, and then the part you don't equate for is the life happening to people on the team. And when I put it together, I didn't really screen. So I'm thinking about doing something again, but I want to do something different, right? I don't want the full commitment. I really just want more people to get into production. And
Okay.
I've tried a couple things. I tried the last thing I tried was after the team thing didn't work out. What I tried was I had everybody pay me that wanted to participate. I had everybody pay me $100, and then I went out and bought leads and just shared them with them, using the CRM. And I thought that was going well, but then they started complaining about the leads. They weren't calling the leads, you know?
Oh, I have so much to say about that. Um,
Yeah. So, but this time, I was like, I'm not going to spend my money, and you're not going to call them, so you can spend your own money and not call them. And that's what we did, and they still didn't call them, so I ended up canceling that too.
okay. All right. Two topics so far. And Eleanor, how about you today?
To be quite honest, I just kind of wanted to be a fly on the wall, listening. I mean, mine's kind of all over the place, you know. I mean, that literally nothing is going to happen at this moment, but just had a call with the developer this morning, and we're about to close on our first parcel. And then the goal by the end of the year is just to have 20 builds done. So I know that doesn't really need anybody, but next year we'll probably be closer to 150 builds. So I just kind of want to get on the ground floor and see, at what point should I start thinking about bringing on an admin, a digital marketer, a website develop, like all of the things that go into a developing or, residential development. So I know I'm a little bit of a different case.
Nope.
So
I love it.
I'm just wanted to be a fly on the wall.
And good morning, Laura. I've missed your face.
Good
Laura,
morning.
Laura is my virtual assistant, so she's my team.
I love it.
She's my team. So I love how this flowed then. So we're going to start from the beginning with Cozy's question. Cozy, so teams came about primarily, well, let's talk about why you would want to be a team member first, and then we'll talk about if how that would transition into building one. So they came about out of kind of necessity when you think about it, and that's typically how it starts for most teams. One person can only do so much without losing your quality of life, right? Work-life balance starts to really get pretty thin. And it's great for agents who are becoming very productive to get to that point, but then, they need help. So that's kind of where teams started. Now, remember, guys, long ago, there were hardly any teams, right? It wasn't nearly as popular as it is now. Everybody was just a single agent. Maybe they had an admin and they were just killing themselves all the time. Like everybody was just like had a horrible life. Like they never saw their kids. It was bad. So let's talk for a second about why you might want to be a team member versus a team owner when you're first starting out. But I wish everybody would do it when they became agents.
I
I wish,
started on a team.
Yep. I mean, and look at you now. I mean,
Mhm.
it's so powerful that you don't feel alone. It's very difficult. I mean, the attrition rate for realtors when they become realtors is so high, right? They give up. It's so hard in the first year. Okay. It's a lot of
Mhm.
work. It's a lot of moving pieces. You're trying to figure out so many things. And then you're like also trying to figure out leads, right? So there's just a lot of things that happen there. So joining a team gets you exposure to all of that. You start to be able to see other agents that are doing it, maybe even shadow them, right? There's a lot of advantage to that. I always loved, because remember, I came from corporate real estate. So I spent a long time in commercial, corporate, and franchise real estate. So when I went to residential, I didn't really know how to buy a house, sell a house, or any of that. It was a completely different animal for me. And this was not that long ago, like, I don't know, 12 years. Um, and I remember getting my license and going and sitting in my brokerage, and they had kind of a basics class, but then sitting there and thinking like, when's the magic happen? And I would go in
Mhm.
every day and sit in the market center, and like, I had no idea what to do. I had no idea how to get leads. I just like was like, they don't just call the main number and tell me that they want to go and buy. I don't understand. I don't know. Um, so it wasn't until after someone had seen me sitting in the bullpen every day for weeks that someone approached me and said, would you like to hold an open house for me? Right? I have several this weekend. I can't cover them all. Could you do it? And that was the first time. And she said she didn't have any team members that could do it. And I was like, that's interesting. Okay. I didn't really know her very well, but she needed help. And she said, don't worry. Any leads that you get while you run it are yours to keep.
Mhm.
I was like, ding, 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 ding. Okay. All right. That's how this started. Right. So then I said, so your team members that are with you all the time, they are typically running open houses and getting leads that way? And she's like, yes, and those are team provided leads and they stay within the team and it's a split. But she's like, because I need help and you're not on my team, if you get these leads, they're yours. And I was like, interesting, right? So all of a sudden I was getting some exposure and I was getting to learn a little bit more, but I again didn't know much about teams. So
Mhm.
that's how I kind of started getting my feet wet with doing open houses and things like that. Now, when you're a team member, I do, I'm gonna say it right now and it's being recorded. So in case anybody becomes a team leader at some point, a team's responsibility is never to provide leads for their team members.
Mhm.
Okay? It is not. We might be able to provide opportunities like, hi, I have this listing. Could you please hold this open house? Go do a great job building rapport with those people and turn them into leads. They're still
Mhm.
team leads because our listing provided that open house. But the other thing that as a team leader we do is we teach you to fish. Okay, I'm going to teach you all about how to work your top 50 in your sphere of influence as a team leader. But you certainly have the advantage of being a team member and having the opportunity to go hold open houses, right?
Mhm.
You're also getting mentorship and guidance. Yes, we have brokers, right? But they can't one-on-one with us. You can't call them up every single time you need to write an offer and ask for help. So there's just some real advantage to it. And listen, guys, I ran a team in New York. The longest team member on that team is a buyer's agent, and she has now been there for 18, I think this is 18th year, 18th year.
Oh.
She doesn't want to leave. Could she go sell real estate on her own and be wildly successful? Absolutely. The
Mhm.
reason she doesn't is the support she gets from the team. As a result, she gets buyer opportunities, open house opportunities. She gets a transaction coordinator. We did all the marketing, and she knew, oh, let me let somebody in. She also knew that if she needed to go away on vacation, she had coverage and she felt like she could have work-life balance. In her case, it was very, very important because she also had a second job. Well, I wouldn't call it a second job. She's a rock star. She literally had a rock band. She'd had a band for years and she was very successful in Manhattan and she played gigs all the time. And so she was like, can't do anything on Saturday. I need somebody to cover my buyers because I've got to go play a gig. I
Mhm.
don't know if she still does it because she's older than I am. And I'm like, I can't imagine being in a rock band, but whatever, whatever floats your boat. On average, she was making $250,000 a year after splits as a buyer's agent. Okay. So sometimes people say, well, I don't want to be on a team because they take too much money. The split's too high. I'm like, you're not making any right now. So some is better than none. Go learn, build, and start to figure out how to operate on your inside of that team before you try to go figure out how to operate on your own. Cozy, does that make sense? Okay. So and it's the support, really it is. And again, this weekend, one of our team members here in California was away at a conference. Well, he was at PSI Basic, and and he said, "Oh my gosh, Selena, my buyers that are so hot, they desperately want to see houses this weekend. What do I do?" I said, "I got you. Just put a message in the Slack, right?" And I'm like, "Hang tight, we got this," right? And he was able to go back to what he was doing without any issues, right? And Will, he signed up for size 7, so he's like, "I'm gonna need some more coverage." Will knows what I'm talking about.
When is it?
Huh?
When
When's
is
the
it?
next?
Uh-huh.
Anthony's going to the one in February. I think Glenn is going to go to the one after that, and I want to say it's April.
Okay.
You know, they're moving back to New Mexico. Blech. Blech. But anyway, so for him, he was so grateful while he was away, and he was like, I love being a part of this team because I know I have this kind of support, right? You don't get that when you're on your own. When you're on your own and you have vacation, you're still working on vacation. And I'm going to tell you that if you go on vacation, every buyer or every seller you've ever met is all of a sudden going to want to buy or sell. Like the second you get on the plane, it's going to be like ding, 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 ding. That's when it happens. So, and then you're like, oh, I thought I was going to enjoy this week with my family, but now, sadly, I'm not. I'm going to be working the whole time. Or you have a team, you have support, right? So there's that side of things. So Cozy, I hope that helped a little bit.
That did help a lot. Thank you. And I was with Rick's team prior to his passing. So, but I also had a second job, so I always felt like I wasn't part of the team, although he was including me in the emails and everything. That is why when you and I spoke months ago, why I
Yeah.
decided to separate myself from that, because I had just felt like I wasn't part of the team,
Well,
even though I was part of the team. So
you were a different type of member than our traditional team, and bless Rick Chiha, he had several of you. So most of our team members are very, very active with the team, right? I mean, we're pretty busy. And it's gonna sound harsh, guys, but when I took over, I said we don't take any more part-timers. I don't take any more part-timers. It is too complicated to track when they're on, when they're off, when they're working, when they're not available, etc. And we had made a lot of changes before we lost Rick from several members of the team. And it was just, it's so hard. Like somebody could call in and say, I need to go buy a house. And I was making multiple phone calls trying to find anybody. We had like a large team. And I was like, ain't no one, no. And they're like, nah, don't feel like working today. You know, and I was like, $15,000 in commission doesn't sound good to you? I don't know, it sounds good to me. But that's what happens. So I'm very particular. And I'm a workman coach and I'm a master coach, so I'm a little bit stronger willed about it. I don't hire part-timers. It's too hard to manage. So typically a lot of team leaders won't, I will do it if you have a plan to get out of the other job. We have it in place. I know exactly what it looks like. How many houses do you have to sell to feel very comfortable that you were going to quit one job and start the next one full time? Like we have a plan. Like we're sitting down and we're writing a whole business plan on it. And I know that's the strategy. That's the only time I'll do it now. Very particular.
just to interject,
Mhm.
I know this is probably not the right time or right platform, but I would like to talk to you later. But I'm retiring from my job soon, and
Sure.
that was the thing. I've been on my job for 36 years. So when I met Rick, I don't want to bore everybody else with the whole story, but I'm off work right now. So that's why I was trying to get my real estate kicking in gear, because I have all this time. And that's why lately you have been seeing me on these
I know. I
calls,
was like, she's
because
around.
I know, because I'm not at work. So that's why I wanted to utilize this opportunity to get back in the swing of things, because it's not like I'm a new agent, although I feel like a new agent. I've been in the business for years, but I just felt like I was alone. So that's why I was just trying to cut the whole team thing off. I didn't feel like it was feasible, but like
Don't
you
worry.
said, making some money versus no money is huge in my mind as well. So I do have business sense in that regards. But like I said, I'll
Yeah.
talk to you later. But
But
I really would like to that's why I came onto this meeting. I wanted to hear about the team and figure
Excellent.
out what to do next.
Betcha. You betcha. And I've been doing this for a really long time, and the strategy is always that we teach you to generate leads on your own with your own top 50, your own sphere of influence, anybody that you know, go hold open houses, door knock, whatever that is. Anthony, Rick's son, is door knocking every month, like 700 houses, guys. I mean, so we're teaching him just like anybody else. And that's just part of it. So there are expectations to be on teams, like holding open houses if there are listings, doing your own lead generation, following up with leads very quickly. We run a Zillow Flex team. It's a lot more louder, and I are like "Rah!" all the time with Zillow leads. But like there are expectations with each team and what that looks like. Now, I'm going to pivot for a second, kind of moving into Will's. Will went through something, and I knew that as well with having, deciding to cut back on his team. We did the same thing with Rick's initially. Now, Will, I know we talked about this, and I really love that you said you're going to be more selective. That's something that we definitely focused on in the past several months. And it's so hard to make it onto the team now in some ways. Like it's quite the process, and it's quite the requirements, right? And now we're going through Casey too. It used to just be me and Rick, and now they're like having to make it through Casey, and she's tough. You think I'm tough, Casey's tough. Okay. So, and what we found though is it's probably the most excited I've been about running a real estate team in a really long time, because we're having a lot of fun now. We've got everybody on our team is full time. Everybody is really in it. They're really great about supporting each other. The culture is great. And now guys, this is why we do teams, but you build them, the right way. Everybody's in the same headspace, right? And if you don't have core values in place already, you better start thinking about those before you start a team. Okay, because we hire and fire to them. 9 times out of 10, when I let an agent go in New York, we had them huge on the wall. I could point to the wall and tell you why I was letting them go. And I would tell them why I was letting them go. I'd be like, you see them right there? Number 4. That's what's happening today, right? So you want to hire that way as well. You want to make sure they're in alignment with it. For us, it was vitally important running a flex team because that's quite complicated and it requires being very present. You can't be part-time. You have to be able to answer your phone all the time, like between 8 and 8 typically is when that comes in, and what my expectations for follow-up are. And if you don't have enough business right now, you have to hold open houses when we have listings, right? Those are your expectations. Like listing agents do not typically hold open houses. That's a buyer lead generating activity. So I don't want a listing agent sitting at an open house. It's a waste of their time, right? So, Will, in answer to your question, and I can't remember if I shared my Wise Hire ad with you. Did I? Okay, good. I just refreshed it the other day, and my God, I was like coming home on the plane looking at my email, and I was like, I think I've gotten 13 applications since I refreshed it on Thursday. And I just from hitting the refresh button, you have to refresh it pretty often on Wise Hire. Guys, I was so specific because I was getting so many bad candidates on Wise Hire that I went in and I was like, I'm going to be okay, first of all, I'm a high D on the disc assessment, but I wouldn't say I'm normally aggressive, but I got a little aggressive in the ad. And I said, here's an example of what the schedule would look like for you as an agent on our team. And here's what the expectations would be. After you've completed reading this, if this doesn't sound like something you want, please do not apply. And I was like, nobody's ever going to answer this ad. I have had more, and I have been using Wise Hire for years. I've had more applicants from that ad. And when I asked them what it is about the ad that brought them to me, they'll say, we really liked the structure that you mentioned. Like, that's what we're missing in our lives as realtors, right? They're like, we want somebody who's going to tell us like, oh, this is the most effective way to do this. And I was like, my aggressiveness is paying off. Okay. But I think it's because they've been somewhere that they weren't getting it, or it's really tough to go from being in corporate or something like that to being an entrepreneur. And they lack the ability to have the kind of structure on their own. And they don't know what it looks like. So for me, it was more important not to waste time or energy on agents who were not fully prepared. We just recently had someone leave the team and EXP as a result, but her reason for leaving was that she felt we started work too early. Our huddles were too soon. Our huddles started at 8:30. And I was like, hi, we call those work hours out here in the world. And she was like, it's too early in the morning. And I said, what time would you suggest? And she said 10:30 for to start her work day. I was like, this is not a good fit. At that point, most of us have lead generated for 2 hours. Like at that point, I've been at my desk for like 3 to 4 hours. I'm like, nope. And it was okay. It was a mutually agreeable thing that we weren't in alignment, right? So that's why core values are important. And it's why when you're hiring, you can't be desperate. Guys, when you hire someone and you spend time on them, that is like throwing money out the window if they don't make it and if they're not the right fit. I want you to think about how many listings you could take on in the time that you're training somebody. like like you could make listing calls and lead generate, and you could spend hours training agents that don't really have any desire to be good agents. And then think about all the money you actually did just lose because they weren't the right fit and you were trying to make them something they never were in the first place. You cannot possibly want it for them more than they want it for themselves. All right. So in the my application process, the interview is 3 interviews before we even talk about commission. We're on the 3rd one. I'm like, they'll ask, what's the splits? Oh, we're not there yet. I'm sorry, I'm not sure we're the right fit yet. So we're not going to talk about that yet. And they're like, what? Because they just think you take everybody. They're like, oh, everybody's desperate. They'll hire me. And I'm like, oh, no. I don't know if this is right. We're still getting to know each other. We're dating. We will date before we get married. And thank goodness we can divorce, but still, we're going to date first and we're going to make sure it's the right fit. And then that way, by the 3rd interview, you really started to get to know them a little bit more. The expectations are really being talked about. And by the time you talk about commissions, they don't even care what the split is because they just have fallen in love with whatever culture you've already built. And they're like, oh, is that what their splits are? Oh, terrific. Okay, where do I sign? Right? If they don't, and they hem and haw, they're not the right fit. They're not in alignment. Okay. So it's, everybody goes through it. And Will, I know it was really a sucky time. I mean, I really know it was a sucky time, but at the same time, it also released a lot of stuff for you, right? It was feeling like a lot. When you're surrounded by people who are either negative, not producing, and by the way, they play the blame game. It's everybody else's fault but their own. It drags down the people who are doing a great job. And we just reviewed something, and it was a book that we all read as coaches years ago called The Oz Principle. And it's actually a fantastic book, and it's all written about how we operate in business and especially as entrepreneurs, and they base it on the Wizard of Oz. And we talk about what we call above the line and below the line thinking. Right? And below the line is blaming everybody else, taking no accountability for their own actions, just negative all of the time. Whereas above the line is saying, am I doing everything possible to generate leads and work on my own business? Even though you're on a team, you're still an independent contractor. You're still running your own business within that business. So you still have responsibilities, right? So when I start to see people that are below the line, it's all victim. Everything is everybody else's fault. It's the market's fault, Selina. I can't convert any leads because the market is bad, right? And I'll be like, okay, let's pull up the MLS really quick. Let's just see how many people went pending this last week. Oh, 312? Well, somebody's buying. They're just not buying with you. The same thing with a listing agent. Oh, Selina, there are no listings out there. Nothing is happening. It's dead as a doornail. Interesting. 150 went on the market this week, like in your neighborhood, in the area you cover. Those people are listing. They're just not listing with you. Why? How many calls did you make, right? But it's easy to blame and go below the line and not take any accountability for what we do. So as team leaders, we have to watch it, and then we have to cut the cancer out really fast. Hire really slow, fire really fast. As soon as you see it, cut it. right? I have upon occasion put people on probation. Like, hey, I'm noticing like a bad vibe here. Like, or you're not doing the things that you need to be doing. Let's take 30 days. Let's take 30 days, change your tude. If they haven't gotten anything into production, they have 30 days to get something into contract. Right. Okay. You've been taught all the things. You've been provided with all the training. You have all of the tools. You have 30 days to do something with it. Speaking of Zillow, sorry, hang on. Let me turn that off. Zillow Flex lead coming in. But giving them 30 days, because it's either going to light a fire under them or you're going to get your answer. Right? And you're going to say, perhaps I wanted this more for them than they wanted it for themselves. And if that's the case, it's time to let them go. Okay? Because if you can't do it with the support of a team, then you're not going to do it. Okay? It's just not as feasible. And not everybody makes it in real estate, guys. All right. So Will, follow feedback on that, follow-up questions on that section.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's good. I've done especially after we had a meeting. I don't think you came in town for that. When Casey flew to LA. I don't think you were there for that.
No.
But something that was stressed was the 30, 33, 33, 33, right? So at any time, 33% is growing, 33% are complaining, and 33% are offboarding. I can recognize where someone is, and I
Yep.
match energy, you know? So if they're in the middle and third, like 33 percentile, I don't even pay them any attention. I just focus on the top 33%. But then again, I don't want to be that person, or people, well, maybe I don't care if I'm that person, but I'm literally just focusing on the top 33%. Everybody else, I'm just letting them go because they're telling you where they're headed.
Yeah. So I'm very much of the same mindset, and I struggle with it sometimes because I do get, as a coach, I get caught up in the I can help them. I can help them. I can help them. Right? And I'll invest time and energy, and then I'll realize afterwards, I'm like, God, you just can't help people who don't want to help themselves. And but it's depressing. It's like, oh, I want everybody to be successful in real estate, right? When they come in, because it's an exciting and amazing opportunity. It's one of the best things we can do, where we have direct control over how much money we make. But a lot of times I will spend a little bit of time with that middle 33%. I will ask questions. What's happening? What's going wrong? What's the limiting belief? Whatever it is, right? To a certain extent. And then you're like, okay. If you hear the below the line, then there's not a lot you can do. If you hear above the line and they say, gosh, I feel like I'm just making the calls and whatnot, but it's just not converting. And Selina, I would really love some help. Oh, we're on. Okay, we're on. If you ask for help, if you are in it, if you are doing the things, and maybe it's a skill we need to work on, I'll invest, because you just asked for help and you're doing the other activities. We had that brought up the other day. There was an agent, she's a team leader, and she brought it up at coach training, and she said, I just don't know what's happening with my buyer's agent. I've given her my script. She's making the same number of calls I'm making, and she's not converting. And she said, and I'm converting like crazy. And they're calling expireds and FISBOs. And I said, interesting. And I said, well, can I ask you, are you sure she's got your script? She said, yes. And my script it's working beautifully when I call. And I said, well, have you listened to her? And she said, what? And I said, are you actually hearing her make the calls? Or is she at home in the office or whatever that is? Are you hearing her make the calls? And she said, well, no. And I said, well, one, you don't know she's using the script. And two, she could be using the script, but she could be struggling with the objections, right? So now you're not actually training her. She doesn't really know what's going wrong. All she knows is she's failing. And you think she's failing, and you're frustrated, and she's frustrated. And in reality, there's a very good chance that if you just heard what she was saying, you would realize what's happening. And I said, why would you never bring her in and just say, hey, let's do this together. We're going to lead generate together for a day or two. She gets to hear you. That way she's like learning from you, and you get to hear where things are going wrong, right? It's kind of the advantage of Zillow Flex actually recording our first calls, because boy, does that open my eyes up. Like actually hearing an agent talk a buyer out of buying on the call, on the recording. And I was like, you know, so it makes you realize like, maybe I should just record everything. And some people do, by the way. Some people record all their calls if they have that ability in their office phones. So I do think there's always opportunity at the middle 33% to see if they do actually want help. Maybe they're struggling with knowing how to ask for it, and we give them a little bit of an opportunity. But you're right. It's something we talk about with retention, right? We're always trying to work on retention as well, but there's really only so much you can do if they're not doing it on their own. And we had another exercise where we were talking, because recruiting comes up so much even at Workman, and they said, how many agents do you need on your team? Okay, so for every 25 leads that you have coming in, buyer leads coming into your team, you need a buyer's agent. So if you're getting on average 50 buyer leads a month from whatever source that is, you need 2. Okay, I have to be careful because my Zoom thing makes funny things happen. So when I put my fingers up, balloons are going to start coming up. So you need 2, right? So we're figuring that out. But in reality, when I say you need 2, it means you need to hire 4, because 2 aren't going to make it. Okay. And I prefer to hire them 2 at a time, because I let them train together, and then I let them script practice together, and they become, training buddies. So there's a real advantage to that. So as team leaders, it's something to think about. I have a team that I coach, and they brought on 6 all at the same time, and they actually had kind of started their onboarding, but they said, we're not actually going to bring you all in until this one day. Then we will start training all 6 of you at the same time. And that's a really smart way to do it. Try to be more efficient.
Do you let them know that, yeah, we're bringing in 6, but only 3 of you are going to make it? Like, is that
Yep.
too much?
It's true. I don't say that. We just tell them that we're bringing in 6. Now, I mean, I will have agents that will interview, and they'll say, well, I don't want you to hire that many agents, because then you're not going to give me as many leads. And I'll say, well, that's such a great thing to say, because I'm not going to give you that many leads anyway. I'm going to give you some opportunities. It's not my job to give you leads. My job is to teach you and to guide you and make you go learn to fish, right? Even with our Zillow Flex account, with all the splits that come off the top of Zillow Flex, it's 40% off the top, guys. Then you've got a team split, then you've got your EXP split. By the end of it, you're like, oh, I can go get gas in the car this weekend. Excellent. So I tell them, I'm like, if you rely only on Zillow Flex leads, you're not going to make it. You're not going to be able to pay your bills. So you need to be working Zillow Flex, but you also need to call your top 50, your SOI. You need to be holding open houses if you're door knocking, whatever that is. That's why we have 4 pillars of income. That's why we talk about 4 lead sources, because one of those things is not enough. So if an agent comes to you and says, I want to join your team because you're going to give me leads, walk away. That's
Run.
not what we're here for. Yeah, run. Don't even walk, like run. And I've had people get very upset with me. Well, other teams provide leads. Well, that's great. That might be a better fit for you. I would rather teach you to be an agent. I'd rather teach you how to build that for yourself than just give it to you. You learn nothing from me giving it to you.
And that, I will say, so the team I was on never gave a lead. I've never been given, never was given a lead. His thing was, I'm gonna teach you how to fish. And that's why, I mean, that's provided so much confidence for me in my real estate business, because I never get worried, because if I want to, I can just turn things on and generate leads.
Yep. That's amazing. Because a lot of people, I mean, people say it all the time. I did this so I could get more leads in to give to my agents. I did this, I spent this money, I've spent this, and this is what I'm doing to generate all of this, and it's not working. And I'm like, well, that was your first mistake. Okay. Your first mistake is 1, promising them anything, and 2, setting the expectation that that's what you do. That's not what you do. Team leaders are here to help them build their business, and teams are about support, mentorship, guidance, and teaching you to run a business. It's really what it comes down to. Hi, it's Maisha, right? Yeah, I had to move my arrow so I could see your name. I was like, hello, we're friends on Facebook now. I see all the things you're doing. I'm like,
Will
she's
told
been
me to join. Will told me to join. I know he told me to join because he knows I need to hear this because he tells me this stuff all the time.
That's actually how I recruited her, because we were talking about team stuff, you know, and I get on her all the time because it's more, you know, before it was more of a vanity play, you know, where it looked good, but I'm like, we got to get these people producing, you know what I mean?
yeah.
And
I
they
mean,
don't want to do anything. Like you said, like I paid for leads for I was like committed to this thing for a whole year. So I couldn't even get out of the freaking contract. And these guys weren't even doing it. I'm like, you're not answering your phones. And I know this because my phone rings if you don't answer your phone. Like, come on. Like, these are people who are on this website right now looking at homes. And so the easiest thing for you to do is answer your phone. And so it was just frustrating. So I'm like, that taught me I won't buy leads anymore for anybody. I'll teach you how to get your own leads. I'll give you all the ideas. But at the end of the day, you look at it and you're like, these people don't, I hate to say it, but I'm like, you look at it and you're like, these people don't want to work. They
don't
want
want to
to,
work.
they want what they see you have, but they don't want to hustle to get it. And it's like, when you're telling them, this is what I did, this is how I've gotten it, these are the things that I've put in place, it just like goes in one ear and out the other for a lot of these people. So
Well, and I think the biggest struggle is we don't act on the red flag the moment we see it, right? Again, we're like, oh no, I need help. I need agents. I need this. I need that. And instead we get complacent and we allow it to sit for a little and sometimes a lot too long. And we're like, oh no, 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 no. Guys, I guarantee you there are agents out there who want to do the right thing. We just have to find them, right? You have to be very selective, very selective. And you know, I was recently helping somebody in our organization hire, and it was an admin, and they were every time they would interview the person, first somebody would come in, they'd be like, "Oh, this is her," and I'd be like, "Okay, you literally just talked to her for 30 minutes on the phone." I was like, "How could you possibly make a decision that big in 30 minutes?" And they're like, no, 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 this is it. I just know it. I just know it. Right. And I'm like, okay, secondly, we're going to disc assess them. Then they're going to go through another interview with you. Then they're going to have an interview with Selena. And then they're going to come in and they're going to do a team meeting so that you know that they're the right fit before you bring them on. And they were like, how long is that going to take? As long as it takes. Okay. Because you bring somebody in and it's the wrong one. You've lost all that time and energy when they're the wrong one. Same thing for team members as far as agents. Be super selective, very selective from the very beginning, and just say, hey, tell me about what it is that you want for your business. Now, if they've been licensed previously, at least a year, I ask them what they've been doing. And if they haven't generated any business, I want them to kind of self-actualize why. Like, tell me what's happening. Where do you think the gap is in what's happening? And tell me what it is that you're looking for. Sometimes when they say I want leads, I won't run because they might be super duper new and they don't know enough, right? And I'll be like, tell me more about that. Guys, when we ask questions, we go 3 deep. That means you ask a question, you let them answer, you ask another question, you let them answer, you ask another question, you let them answer on that same subject. We're going 3 deep into it because your interviews, that's why the first one is always just like, okay, they're going to tell you whatever you wanted to hear in the first interview. I don't even remember. I don't write anything down when I have a first interview because it's really not the real story. It's like, oh, I'm going to tell them everything that they've ever wanted to hear so that they will hire me immediately and sign an ICA and I will get leads day after tomorrow. You know, so the first interview for me, I call it speed dating. It's 15 minutes long. And it's like, and I typically know whether or not I want to talk to them again after the first 15 minutes. The second one is a full hour. It's very long, and it is me going through their entire resume from the oldest job to the newest job. And if you have not read the Who Method book, you should read that. My interview sheets are completely taken from the Who Method. I have cheat sheets that I made for myself over the years, and it's got the 15-minute interview questions. It's got my one hour full thing, and then it's got another one that finds out if they're a cultural fit. That's the third one. The second one takes so long, and let me tell you why it's so vitally important. It's unlike any other interview you've done before. I'm not talking to them about the job position in the beginning. That's at the very, very, very end. What I am talking to them about is starting with their resume, oldest one first, and I ask the exact same questions on every single job. I have a cheat sheet, so it's like 5 pages long because I accommodate for possibly 5 past positions, right? And we ask the same questions because when you start hearing the same answer multiple times, there's a story. One of the questions is, tell me a little bit about your relationship with your supervisor in that position. It's very enlightening after the 3rd time that they say, oh, they were very micromanagey. And I was like, is it them? Or is it you? You know, or I'll say, tell me about the team that you worked with. How did you feel like that was? And how would you rate it? Is it A, B, or C? A being the best team you've ever worked with, C being the worst. And they're like, oh, C. My team members were just like, I couldn't stand them. I couldn't stand them. Then you get to the next one and they'll be like, you know, it was a really difficult team. I really just didn't get along with anybody. It was just like, all of a sudden you're on the 3rd or 4th past job. And that's the thing you're saying, like, maybe you're the problem. You know, think about Taylor Swift. I'm the problem. It's me. They're the problem. Like these questions, because you ask them over and over again, they don't even realize what's happening, but they're answering it, the real question I'm asking.
So I do
Not,
have a question for you, Selena, if you don't mind.
no, please.
What do you do with, or how do you deal with team members who have like full-time jobs and they're doing this on a part-time basis? And
You weren't on
so, what'd you say?
I said you weren't on at the beginning. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. It's a great question. I don't hire them.
Got you.
So,
So you're only dealing with full-time agents who can commit full-time
yes,
hours
yes,
to this business. Got you.
yes. Now, I did state that if they are somebody who comes to me and they say, I would like to transition out of this job, Cozy's about to retire, right? If someone comes to me and says, I'm about to transition out of this job and I want to do real estate full time, and I say, okay, that's very interesting. Let's talk about that. If they are willing and open to sit down with me and make a plan about what that would look like. Now, it means they have to be very transparent. Okay, the reason for that is they're going to need to tell me what they're making at their current job. I'm going to need to know exactly how much they're making or exactly how much their monthly expenses are. And we sit down and we write it down. I'm like, all right, if your monthly expenses are $5,000 a month, that's all in wherever you are right now. Let's just say I'm just using that number. And you know you want to transition out. How much money do you have in savings? 9 times out of 10, it's 0 when they come to me to become an agent, right? And I'll say, okay. So we know that we need $5,000 a month to survive if you were to leave one job and start being a realtor. So being a realtor doesn't happen overnight, right? Generating business. Call my husband. He just became one in South Carolina. It's not going great either. I can't coach him. So, but I say you have to give yourself at least 90 days before you'll earn any pay. Right? Chances are it's at least 90 days. In New York, I made it 6 months because it takes 90 days to freaking close anything in the state of New York. My life was hell there. But it's about 90 days just to close. So I would tell them 6 months. So, but we would look at the 5,000 and I would say, great, we need $15,000 in your savings account. So that if you left and quit job number 1 and you decided to come to job number 2 as realtor, you could do it without feeling like, oh my God, I have no money. I can't make it. I can't buy groceries, because I don't ever want anybody in that position, right? So we figure that out. From there, I say, great, let's figure out, because I coach people all over the country, what the average commission income is for someone. Now, we really sit down with a calculator and I'm like, you're a buyer's agent. So here's what your split would be. Here's your split with whatever brokerage you're with, right? We're really looking at what's their take home. What would be your actual check when you got it? And we figure out what that is. Okay, let's say it's $2,500. Okay, so I'm like, okay. Now we know how many houses we have to sell part-time in order to be able to quit the full-time job. Because if you're coming to me part-time and I'm agreeing to this and we have mapped out a plan, that means you have got to kick butt on nights and weekends. but now you know exactly how many houses you have to sell, right? So we knew it was 5,000 a month. We know it's 2,500. So they need to sell 6 houses in order to do that, right? 6 houses. So I'm like, how committed are you? And they'll be like, what? I'm like, well, how committed are you? You're only going to be able to be an agent part-time until you've saved up that much money. And they'll say, I'm committed. I want to make the change. I'm like, great. I'm going to have open houses for you to sit at. I'm going to call people I know to have open houses for you to sit at. I don't know why it keeps thinking I'm putting my thumbs up, and I'm not putting my thumbs up. It's kind of one thing. But I tell them, I'm like, that's how we're going to figure it out. But that means you're holding open houses at every opportunity. By next week, you have to give me your entire top 50 in sphere of influence, right? That sphere of influence is 250 people on average. Top 50 is another 50. That's 300 people. You're going to call all of them. You're going to send them all a letter telling them you're so excited about your new career in real estate. They're all going to get a card, right? Everybody's going to know about it, because what I'm trying to get you to do is get referral business outside of just holding open houses, right? So now we've mapped out a plan. Now we're all excited, and I'm on their team, rah-rahing and cheerleading to get them to 6 houses, because I know that's what's gonna make them a full-time agent. They still have to take all the training with me, but if they work full-time, we offer ours through Workman, so it's all videos that they can do at nights and on weekends. Again, they have to show me the commitment. I'm like, you're gonna have to do it at night, and you're gonna have to report back to me that you finished the training, right? Come back and let me know. But 6 houses. Now, sometimes, and by the way, I get really invested. At this point, I've got the number. I know it's 15,000. And if they closed one for 4, I'm like, oh, we got more money in the bank. I get all invested with them. And I'm like, we're so close. Oh my God, you only have to sell 4 houses because you sold a really expensive one, or you did a double-sided transaction, and we're all in it together. And then we celebrate the second that they know they've got the money in savings, and they're like, I quit, Selina. I quit, and I'm here, and I'm full-time, and I'm in it, right? If they can do that as a part-timer, you've got an agent for life, okay? Because they have shown you what they are capable of doing, and you helped them. You really broke it down for them, and you showed them the path. Most people never do the math, right? They also have to accommodate for taxes. I did not mix that in. Teach them. Oh my God, teach them. Agents never remember to freaking pay taxes. They get the whole thing in and then nothing happens. Like, so teach them to save money for taxes. But if you can do that with a full-timer that's full-time elsewhere and develop the plan, I'll do it. But if like a month in, you see that oh, Selina, I'm not available for open houses. Oh, ever. Like, I'm sorry, I can't do this weekend, next week, and the following weekend, the other weekend. You know what? I've decided I'm going to this trip or that trip or whatever. And I'll tell them, hi, you see the plan? We had a plan. You're not following the plan, right? That's the way to get them in there. But if you can get somebody through that process, oh man, they make it through that, they're going to make it through anything. They're going to be a really great agent because they work their butt off part-time, right? Did that answer your question?
It did. It definitely did. I mean, I think I'm focused on, Will probably would tell you, like, I'm just trying to be too nice. Because I'm like, I invested money in different things for these people. So I like believe in them. And it's not that they haven't done any transactions, but they're not as committed as I am. Like, I'm like, this is my full-time gig. Like, I got to make this work. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. But I'm like, I don't have enough like deals coming in. I have plenty coming in. I don't have enough that I feel like I can just like hand them over to them.
Right.
Like, and when I have like been like, here's a lead, this person's already pre-approved, you need to go ahead and get them in escrow. It's like, I shouldn't have to do all of that.
No.
So, I kind of get, frustrated because all of the activities and things that I'm giving them to do, they're not doing. And of course, I'm not like necessarily giving them scripts, because for me, I'm like, I'm not a big scripts person, but I tell them this is what you do. Like, so I'll give them like, this is a script that you can use, but you need to personalize this so you sound intelligent. So you sound natural when you're talking to people. Because if you just sound like you're reading off of a script, people are going to hang up the phone real fast. So my
Can I
goal
give you
is to
some
get them to
examples?
practice that stuff so they're prepared when they do call people. But the point is, are you calling people? No.
Yeah. So let me give you a little bit of feedback on the scripting. And this has been around since the dawn of time. But we do want them to read it just like you did it in the beginning, as much as possible. We say that we want them to memorize it, then internalize it, and then personalize it. And it's only after they can spit it back to you verbatim are they allowed to start internalizing it. Because then it starts to sound more like them, right? It sounds like their words. But initially, yeah, it's going to sound like you're talking with marbles in your mouth because it feels uncomfortable. It's not how you would speak. But you want them to know the content. That's why we have them memorize it first. Then they can internalize it and be like, you know, it doesn't sound like me. It doesn't feel very comfortable. I'm gonna sit here and think about how I would make that sound. And they can start working on it after they've absolutely been able to memorize it and spit it right back to you. Then we let them personalize it. And because then it feels very comfortable, it flows. But they know the actual content 100% because they
Yeah,
memorized it.
makes sense.
Yeah. So, you know, guys, I mean, teams, they're going to be around for a while now because they've given people their lives back, right? The ability to be able to have help on the team, not try to do all of the work yourself all the time. The biggest mistake we've all made as team leaders is that we just get a desperation point. And I'm going to tell you that there are certainly agents out there who do fit the core values that you have, and they do fit all of that. But I want you to think about how many times maybe you don't get them because you're taking the first person who comes in and you're like, I only need one agent. And you're just grabbing whoever's there. We don't need the low hanging fruit. We need the right fit. So keep looking for it and always, always build a bench. And what that means is you've got a list of people that you met at an open house or they were the buyer on your listing transaction and you were like, I like them. They seem smart. You know, whatever that sounds like or looks like. My transaction coordinator used to be my best recruiter because she was dealing with them a lot. She'd be like, Selena, you need to call this guy. He was really great. He was really easy to do on the transaction. But think about those people. So even if your team is full, let's just say full at the moment, have a list and be like, I really had a good interaction with that person. You never know. They might be willing to come to a team, right? We've got people of all levels. I try not to take newbies anymore because that's like times suck. Like, but upon occasion, someone will deeply impress me, right? So don't limit yourself and don't take the first person. And there is a lot of value in telling them that they're not the only person you're looking for. You say, oh, I'm sorry, I have more interviews coming. Well, I'm making sure that, and I always tell them, I want you to make sure we're a fit too. This isn't just about me making sure that you're the fit. Like you need to make sure that you like the way we operate our business and you feel the same way about how we do things. And you don't know that in 30 minutes. Right? So just be selective and cut bait, guys. If you've got team members right now who are sucking the life out of you, don't fit the culture, become a cancer in your team because they're always talking below the line, not above the line. It's everything's victim, victim, victim. It's everybody else's fault. Let them go. All they're doing is bringing everyone down. Cut the bait and say, you know what? I bet I could go find a couple of really great agents who really believe what I believe and want to run an incredible business, and they're very, very grateful for the opportunity. Gratitude is a huge core value. If you don't have core values yet, that was one of our prior ones. Show gratitude. Right? Gratitude's big. And if it's always me, and not we, let them go. Okay? It's very big. It's hard to do. Maisha, I used to be like you. I used to be nice. I'm not so nice anymore, but like I used to feel that way too. And then I was like, hi, I feed my family this way. My son was like, dinner sounds like it might be good. So I don't dilly-dally around it anymore. I'm like, most of us come and do this because we have people to feed, we have families to take care of. It's sometimes the retiree agents can work, but almost never. They don't have the same motivation and they don't have the same drive. If they have some other way of getting income and there's nothing truly motivating them to work, you've got to dig into that. Because chances are they're not going to do it.
That's the issue. I had two kids that had just got out of the military. They were getting like $5,000 a month from the military.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard to get somebody motivated when they have that other place to pull that from. right? Because they're just not, they're
It's
just
hard
not
to get
happy.
people motivated who, like, we have Will and I brought on one girl. He has me kind of like coaching her. And she told us, I have 6 months reserves to float me. She lost her job. She's like, I have 6 months worth of money to float me until I have to worry and find another job. She was like, so I need to make this work. Every time I meet with her, I'm like, okay, what have you done this week? Out of all the things we talked about, what have you done? Like, let's talk about it. And she's literally like giggling. I haven't done anything.
Yep.
I just came
Whoever
back from vacation. I just came back and I'm like, you can't afford to take a vacation if all you got is 6 months worth of money. Like, you need to like get on the good foot. Like, I've given you actionable steps. You need to do them. So and I'm like, she doesn't have a job. So you would
Yeah.
think that's enough drive. That's what drove me. Like, I had gotten laid off, was having a baby, got my license, and was like, my husband was like, give it a year. If it doesn't work, then go back to work. I said, okay. So I tell everybody that I'm like, this is literally what drove me to make this business work. I was like, if I can match my salary, then I can do this. I'm like, with a newborn baby, 3 months old, just getting my license in the first 12 months, closing 10 deals. That's like unheard of for new agents. So I'm like, if I can do it, you can do it. That don't mean nothing to half these people.
Well, you cannot, there's another incredible book written by Angela Duckworth called Grit. It's one of my favorite books ever. You can never teach someone grit. They either have it or they don't. And the story that she writes in there, the book is primarily, I mean, it's talking about just the whole concept of grit, but it's all of the people that go into the military academy up in New York. I'm trying to remember the name of it, the famous one. And everybody that gets in is highly, highly qualified, guys. Everybody who gets in there, super highly qualified, both physically and educationally, every single one of them. But not everybody makes it through the course. And she was like, what is the difference between who makes it and who doesn't? And it came down to grit, because almost all of them had the same qualifications on the day they walked in. And the people who rang the bell and didn't make it were the people who didn't have the grit. You can't teach somebody grit. It's just there. She might be crying in your office, Maisha, when she gets down to 1 month of income. And you'll be like,
Oh
you'll be
yeah.
like, been there. I'll be like, really? We talked so much about it. Like,
Yeah.
we did. And I tried to
Yeah.
tell you and I tried to warn you, but here we are.
What
Here
other
we
books
are.
would you suggest? Because you said you use the Who method for your, is that where you get like your interviews from, like how you interview people, or is there like a template
That's the
you
one.
use?
That's the one I use. And they basically give you all the questions in it. And I just put it in a Google Doc and then I just print it to myself, right, as I'm doing it. I used to be with Keller Williams. So I taught Recruit Select and did Recruit Select type of recruiting for years. And I find this so much more successful using the Who method. You really get to know more about the person and you really get into whether or not they're a cultural fit. And I find it so much more powerful. So that's a really great one. There's another book called Who, Not How. And that's all about finding the person. It's not about like, how is it all going to get done? It's like the person is who you're looking for. We call it a missing persons report when you're looking for somebody particular, and you would write down exactly what that person would look like for your missing persons report. So that's a good one. And I love grit. And sometimes I give it to people as gifts, like that young woman that you're talking about. I'll be like, let's just read this book, Angela Duckworth. It's called Grit. I'm like, maybe you need to do a little self-exploration, right? But as far as recruiting and attracting, especially team members, that's probably my favorite is the Who method and then Who Not How. Because people always think about, oh, I'm just filling a position, I'm just filling a role, and they get all focused on the activities and whatnot. And really, when you can teach people a lot of skills, you can't change who they are on the inside. You can't change their motivation by will. You can't change their willpower to do whatever it is that they need to do, but you can teach them a lot of things. Skills can be taught. You cannot teach them to be like, hey, I'm about to run out of money. I should probably start working. Like those types of, and you can't teach them that kind of accountability either. We try, but a lot of times they're just like, oh no, it's everybody else's fault. It's the market's fault. You didn't give me enough leads. You didn't teach me enough. Da 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 da. Whatever it is. You can't teach someone to not be that way unless they do a lot of very deep personal work to improve themselves. It is possible on that side, but that takes a little more digging. I do have to wrap up because I've been sitting here in a parking lot since you missed that story, Maisha. I was just flying home this morning. I've been up since 3:30. And there's no power where we live currently. So I'm like, that's why I'm in a car having a Zoom. I was like, I'm not missing my Zoom. Thank God my car has Zoom in it too. So I hope you guys got a lot out of
I
today.
haven't tried the Zoom in the Tesla. How does it, is this your
I'm
Tesla Zoom?
No, I'm on my laptop, but I'm connected into my Wi-Fi. The only reason I don't like the Zoom in the Tesla is because the camera is up there and the screen is down there. And so
Got you.
when I'm looking at you guys, you're seeing the top of my forehead.
No, I've seen somebody use theirs in their car, in their Tesla, and I'm like, and like you said, it's like top of their head.
Yes.
So once I saw that, I never used it.
Yeah, it is actually really good. It's very effective and you can see everybody on the screen and you can do all the things, but I'm like, I need the camera like at the top of the screen, not up here. I'd be like,
I was gonna say that's probably good for when you have your camera off.
yeah, totally. So I hope you guys got a lot out of today.
Thank
Cozy,
you.
let me put your feet under me and I'll catch up with you. Eleanor, I know I owe you things, so I will get it to you. I did whiteboard a ton of stuff. I should probably just take a picture. I was gonna try to like draw it out.
Whatever is easiest.
I know I owe you things too. I'm gonna go home and see. I did just get a notification that we might have power back by 7 p.m. That'll be just 2 full days of no power.
Do like that. Do that.
Do you want me to email you, Selena, or text
Yes,
you, or
please. Email me.
you?
Go ahead and
Okay.
email me. Yep, just that way it puts it to the top of my list.
I will. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Welcome,
Selena.
guys.
Thank you.
You guys have a good day,
Bye, guys.
ladies.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.